Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of voice the radio. So today, we need to roll out. Wait, no, wrong card game. Let's roll, ladies and gentlemen. Let's roll. It is a phrase which I use definitely in my personal life all the time. I'm fairly sure I use it pretty liberally on this channel, and it is the name of a new attack, except it's not really a new attack. You see, I showed you, a while ago when we were talking about Eevee Heroes, there was a Meryl. And Meryl has the attack, Let's Roll. And I said for 2 colorless energy, it does 20 damage for each of your benched Pokemon that have the attack, Let's Roll. Except I also told you that at the time, and this was completely true when I told you, that it was the only Pokemon we had with the Let's Roll attack, so it could only actually do 60 damage. And I said, look, if none of them are prized, you attach a Twin Energy turn 1, with a Galarian Zigzagoon or a Vitality Band, you're hitting 70 damage, and it's actually a sneakily good Pokemon for donking. But I told you that we had to wait a little bit, because if we got more Pokemon with Let's Roll, it would be worth looking at. We've got more Pokemon with Let's Roll, ladies and gentlemen. We have got ourselves a Jigglypuff. Hey, look, I'm hitting Psychic Weakness. We've got ourselves a Sandshrew. Hey, look, I'm hitting Fighting Weakness. And a Wooloo. I don't really get Wooloo, although Wooloo actually does have a good first attack. We'll talk about that in a moment. Wooloo's colorless. They've all got 60 HP, except for Meryl, who's got 50. And Jigglypuff hits a Psychic Weakness, which incidentally is really good because stuff like Urshifu is properly relevant and weak. So that's kind of awesome. And Sandshrew hits a Fighting Weakness, which, as we've talked about time and time again on this channel, is absolutely phenomenal because you're hitting weakness against stuff like Gengar, which is looking like a really good deck moving forward, as well as support Pokemon like Crobat. Wooloo's not hitting anything for weakness, but we are hitting 2 really good weaknesses, and then Meryl's hitting Water Weakness as well, which it is not perfect, let's be clear, but you never know, you might want to hit that here and there, and this is awesome. Of course, the other thing we have here now is 4 Pokemon with Let's Roll. So whereas before with Meryl it was if none of them are prized, then you can hit 60 damage. Now you can easily fill your bench and hit for 100. However, 100 is not quite enough. So let's take Sandshrew as an example. Sandshrew's a really good example here. You're hitting 100 damage with 5 rollers on the bench. Problem is that's 100 damage. Now against Crobat, weakness 200, job's a good un. But what about Gengar? Now obviously you're miles away from the VMAX, that's not really my point here. What about Gengar V? Well, Gengar V comes in with 210 damage. Or HP. That's alright. You'll need Vitality Band or Galarian Zigzagoon. You'll need some way to do the extra 10. It's alright, it's doable, it's just a little bit awkward. But then Eternatus comes in with 220, and now you're just that little bit further away, although incidentally, because of weakness, Vitality Band will get the KO. If this was 120, i.e. if it counted the active as well, it would be so much better, but it doesn't, so it's not. Having said that, let's be clear, we're talking about using Twin Energy or any kind of energy acceleration whatsoever, because it's all 2 colorless energy, and we're talking about a very easy 100 damage hitting multiple weaknesses. And in the early game, this is crazy, because in the early game, as long as you can draw your your Twin Energy, which admittedly is not guaranteed, or some kind of energy acceleration, Turbo Patch or anything along those lines would do, as long as you can draw the energy, you're probably going to start with a roller, because of like all rollers, and you should be able to do a consistent 100 turn 1 going second. And hitting 100 turn 1 going second is big. Bearing in mind, like I say, if your opponent starts with a Crobat and you can grab your Sandshrew into the active, KO them, win the game. Or if your opponent starts with anything that's weak, you KO them and win the game, because they won't have had a chance to evolve it into a VMAX at that point. And like I've said, you're hitting 3 different weaknesses here. This is kind of ridiculously awesome. Oh, I might be bearing the lead here because there's a Blissey that makes them invincible. Yeah. You see, Blissey's got the ability All-Rounder. Prevent all damage by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon VMAX done to your Pokemon that have the attack Let's Roll. Oh. Well, that'll do, Pig. That'll do. And you may be able to see from the card, you might be able to deduce that you do have the Let's Roll attack. Oh, would you look at that, ladies and gentlemen? Would you look at that? Now, in terms of the attack for Blissey here, it is a slight problem because although Japan will have it for a little while, we're going to get this as Triple Acceleration Energy rotates out. So I don't think you can really attack with Blissey all that often. You'll need some Energy Acceleration plus it's too awkward, right? It's going to be too annoying. Incidentally, Triple Acceleration Energy rotating out really sucks because what you would essentially be able to do is just play 4 Triple Acceleration, 4 Twin, and you would be rolling. It's a bit more awkward, and that's kind of sad. But you are hitting multiple weaknesses. Hopefully that'll make up for it. Oh yeah, and let's get back to Blissey's ability. You're immune to VMAXs, like completely and utterly 100% immune to VMAXs, or at least the damage therefrom. They can do other things. And that's brilliant. It means if your opponent is relying on their VMAXs, they can't KO your Jigglypuff. Now, the reality is they are just going to use the non-VMAX, but, you know, take something like Gengar, they've got to put 3 energy on and then do 190. But, of course, Gengar is not that difficult to KO with Sandshrew. Remember, you're hitting multiple weaknesses. The way your opponent avoids a one-hit KO is VMAXing, but when they VMAX, you're immune to them. So again, against Eternatus, they can get 4 energy on and use Dynamax Cannon, which will actually be 10 damage away from KOing Blissey. Blissey, incidentally, has 130 HP. We're going slightly out of order with a card reveal here. We're not going in the usual manner, but there's like many different cards to talk about and they all intertwine, so we're doing it a bit differently this time. But you will survive that hit, but it doesn't really matter because Sandshrew is going to destroy Eternatus, as long as you've got like a Vitality Band, which you probably should, to be honest. And that's kind of my point here. If they don't VMAX, they are going to be in range if you're hitting for weakness, and if they do VMAX, you are invincible. Now, one of the really sad things for me with Blissey is that Chansey doesn't have Let's Roll, which is actually super annoying because in the early game, like turn 1, you want to get 5 Let's Rollers on the bench so you can hit for a decent amount of damage. But you need to get Blissey, and to get Blissey, you need to get Chansey, and honestly, probably 2 Chansey in case one gets KO'd. But that means that's, you know, every Chansey you bench is 20 damage lost. So you are going to have to do the maths on that and see what you can and cannot get away with. I don't think it's the biggest deal ever. Most of the time, if you need the key KO, you'll be able to hold off on Blissey for a moment. And this is wonderful. I don't love the attack cost on Blissey, I'll be honest with you. But the fact that you're hitting multiple weaknesses here, the fact that it's a pretty easy to pay energy cost, at least as long as your 4 twin energy hold out, the fact that you are immune to VMAX is like we've seen plenty of these gimmick decks in the past that have some kind of cool mechanic like this. The difference with Let's Roll is that you've also got the immunity to VMAXs. So it's not just that you've got a 2 energy attack that does decent damage and can hit multiple weaknesses. It's the fact that you've got that, and other than Chansey, all of your Pokemon are going to be immune to VMAXs. That, ladies and gentlemen, makes a whole heck of a difference. And we run into the usual problem of you don't want other bench Pokemon, so whereas other decks are going to play things like Crobat and Kricketune for a little bit of extra draw, you're not playing it here. You know, when we go back to something like Mad Party, you've got Poltegeist there, who gives you a little bit of a draw engine. That's another one of these gimmicky decks we've seen. Although that one did alright. It's done alright since it came out. It's not a proper top tier deck, but I've seen it do pretty well in a fair few different places. So my point is, what are you going to do for draw? Are you just going to be relying on supporters? That can backfire. As it stands, none of these dudes have a draw engine. Now, maybe there is a Wigglytuff coming, and maybe there is a Sandslash coming, and maybe there is a Dubwool coming. One would imagine these are going to have their evolutions, and the evolutions probably won't have Let's Roll, but maybe one of them's got a little bit of a draw engine which will save you, although again, any that doesn't have less roll will be taking damage off the field. Either way, this, as far as I'm concerned, is worth getting excited about. Now, we do need to do a quick roundup of other attacks here. There aren't a huge amount of them, but we should probably mention them just moderately quickly. So Sandshrew for 1 fighting energy lets you look at the top card of your deck, and you can either discard it or put it back on top of your deck. Jigglypuff for 1 psychic energy just does 20 damage. Let's not get too excited about it. And Wooloo's actually got a sneaky good attack. For 1 colorless energy, it does 10 damage and discards a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. And there will be games where getting rid of a special energy might give your opponent a turn or two where they're not able to attack, and that could actually be kind of fun. I am legitimately excited about this deck. You are properly rolling, pun intended, with Jigglypuff and Meryl and Sandshrew and Wooloo. The pre-evolutions are having their day, ladies and gentlemen, and I am into it. I have no idea how good this is going to end up being. I'm giving it 4 wussies. I worry that if you're not hitting for weakness, it's going to be a bit weak. I worry that the reliance on twin energy or some kind of other energy acceleration might end up being a little bit of a problem. I am worried that if you fill up your bench with these dudes, you might not have enough draw power, and I don't really care. I am hyped, and I am definitely going to be testing this deck when it drops. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.